Hey guys, welcome to Cars and Health Bars. On today's episode, we're going to be diving into the heart of automotive craftsmanship, exploring the dynamic spectrum between working by the clock and racing against the flat rate clock. Join me as we navigate through the gears of compensation system with our skilled mechanic, delving deep into the engine of efficiency and quality in the world of automotive repair. With that being said, guys, let's jump right into it. As you heard in the intro, we're going to be getting into some flat rate versus hourly discussion. But at the top of the show, I wanted to first say Happy Easter to all those celebrating. I hope you guys have a wonderful, beautiful Sunday. Hopefully, it's great weather out for all you parents that have little Easter egg hunters. But I also wanted to say at the top of the show, if you are out and about in Bowling Green this weekend, Saturday is the Bowling Green Cars and Coffee in conjunction with the racetrack. So there's free admission to the Bowling Green Beach Bend Raceway Park if you want to watch some test and tune action. Of course, if you do want to test and tune, it is a $50 tech card. But if you just want to go down and watch some drag racing, have some coffee, have some breakfast, we'll be down there. And of course, a lot of the people you've heard on the podcast will actually be down there. I kind of wanted to get off on a little tangent too. Of course, I'm going to be racing. I have my car has been untested since it had a new transmission and trans tune in it, so I'm very curious to see what it's running. But I kind of want to get off on a tangent for you, Jordan, because there is man, I don't understand the people wanting you and let's just say any other person with like a bolt-on Camaro or Corvette or Mustang, like what the sense is in running your car if you already know what it's going to run generally, and like putting that wear and tear on your car, especially it's your only vehicle right now.
Oh, you talking about like me personally?
Of course.
Well, of course I'm not gonna run my car not until I get a daily driver.
And
I already had the part break today, and there's other stuff I'd like to fix with the car. I can't just, and I'm not trying to spend a lot of money all the time on my car. Like, I'm debt free. I'm trying to save money, put it somewhere smart, like savings and stuff. Do something with my money other than spend it on a liability, not even an asset.
I don't really understand the thought process behind, like, you already know what your car runs. Why dog it out? I mean, I understand people love drag racing. Like, don't get me wrong, it's exhilarating. But if you already know what your car is going to run, why would you dog it out on the drag strip? Like, that is so rough on a car. That's on like that's up there with dang dyno in your car. Like, dyno in your car is like the worst thing to do to your car. And then like the drag strip's right up there. I mean, you're
Hot lapping it.
hot lapping, like you're like putting so much immediate strain and torque on your axle, your whole drivetrain, but mainly your axle, especially if you're on stock
Your whole
setup.
drivetrain can be pretty shocked.
Yeah, especially
Shock
like
loaded
drive
up.
shafts. Especially like our cars have 2-piece drive shafts. I wouldn't say they're rated for much over 600. I mean, that's that carrier bearing, especially high miles. It already ain't happy.
Dog, my shit's rust welded together. I tried changing that carrier bearing. I'm just waiting for it to go.
It's basically a 1-piece.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go and drag race my car while it's like that.
Yeah.
I know my limit.
You're gonna go from like a 28 spline to a 0 spline.
Yeah. Not until I get a daily will you see me at the track running, probably. Yeah, I'm not gonna say never, but I just don't really got any motive to.
Yeah, I'm not gonna bash the people that do that. It's just not for me. Like for example, me, I want my 11. I'm just flat out and simple. I got cheated out of my 11 by myself, my own human error. I want my 11, and then I'm done. I might go.
People will be like, "Oh, you're not running a 10." Like, at the end of the
Who
day,
cares?
it's people put too much into it. It's just test and tune.
Drag racing is a money game.
We're not out here claiming like we're John Force. I don't care if you're part of a shop. I don't care what you do. Go run your time. Don't flaunt it in no one's face. Be an asshole. Because at the end of the day, it shows your own insecurities, and no one cares.
Yeah, I mean, I would respect the guy. Okay, we'll say like somebody takes a C8 out there and runs, let's say like an 11 second. We'll say a 10. I'm going to respect the guy that's behind him in like a piece of crap truck like Haney's that a dude fabbed up himself a lot more than I am Marvel at that C8 that just ran a second faster. Like I care a lot more about the heart and the craftsmanship that goes into a car, much more than I care for the dollar amount that went into the
And you
car.
know what's funny is I think a lot of that craftsmanship and hard work has kind of went out the door in the scene a little bit.
It has.
Not saying there isn't, but there's a lot of people who just bolt on parts. They don't go through the whole process of fabbing something up or doing custom body work or just any custom like work because you can just buy a kit and throw it on something. And not saying you're not mechanically inclined, but
That's what I was gonna
it
say.
really goes to the next level when you do something else.
And in their defense, it does make it is very difficult to go out and buy a welder or outsource that material whenever a kit is so cheap. Like you can buy if you really wanted to go that route, you can get an eBay turbo kit, use the plumbing, and just replace the turbos with like some expensive like Garrett or Precision turbos, and you'll be good. Like you've got that plumbing already done. That's a lot of the work. But
Yeah,
it's like we're saying, like that fab, that's big. That's respect points right there. That's like you beat a GTA mission. You got that respect popping up
yeah,
on the screen.
no doubt.
That's just the tangent I wanted to get on to begin with. Is the whole cars and coffee thing. So, like I said, if you're going to be out in Bowling Green, man, that's crazy though that they're having free admission. Like that's like 10 or 15, maybe even $20 to go watch a test and tune. Like it's free. Come watch some
Yeah,
drag racing.
it's a good opportunity.
Yeah, it's a good time to hang out.
Look
I
at
love
your
drag racing.
competition.
That's right.
Nah.
All right. With that being said, let's get into the main discussion. So I guess if you haven't heard, in our personal lives, Jordan just recently did a job change and has gone back to being a flat rate mechanic. And I feel like it's just prime time to have this discussion, being that you went from hourly back to flat rate, and being that it's still fresh on your mind. I kind of want to discuss what that difference and similarity is, and kind of just pick your brain at how you feel about the different ways of getting payment.
Yeah. So to start with, everyone knows what hourly is. It's what you do every other job just about unless you're commission. But I am now flat rate. So what that means is a job will pay a certain amount and it's from 1 hour to tenths of an hour and warranty pays less. Normal work pays, the good amount that you would ideally want to do. But working at a dealer, you get set warranty times. But anyways, the main thing about flat rate is you're not always going to make, 40 hours when you're there 40 hours. And that's okay. I think as long as you can use that time wisely in other aspects as, like learning experiences or something, then you definitely aren't wasting that time, I think. And that's where I think a lot of people get flat rate wrong is that just because you're not making time doesn't mean you're not making value of that time.
Uh, with that being said, what do you see kind of being the main advantages and disadvantage of both hourly and flat rate?
So obviously the advantage to hourly is you're guaranteed money when you come in, as long
Yeah,
as you're there. And if you're used to an hourly job, you can get certain, like, you can be a mechanic that is hourly probably. I don't know any, but I'm assuming they would just pay you less than the flat rate pay.
I feel like I feel like you see a lot better people whenever you have a flat rate job because it's like you're in control of your own paycheck. I feel
Yeah.
like you see a lot more workmanship go into careers where there is a flat rate, not necessarily career, but a job place that has a flat rate payment system.
Yeah, I definitely do think it, it's like we're all in this together, is how I feel with my friends that I work with.
Yeah,
And, they might make more hours, but I never, like, I can never be salty over that or nothing because it's my fault.
yeah, that's what I was gonna ask you in your opinion. Like, how does that compensation system overall like affect the like just the dynamic overall there at the dealership? Like how does it affect like your teamwork and everything? Like
So,
if your homie like Tyler needs help over here in his bay, like you're obviously not making your own hours at that point. You're helping him make his hours. So kind of break that down for me.
Yeah, so I'd say there's like two groups of people at your dealer. There's your people who aren't going to sit here and bitch and complain when they're not making hours and they take what they can get and know that there is more on the table they could probably do. And then there's the type that, I've done this and I've done that, but here they are not turning hours or, not even attempting to. And, you see pretty quick, I would say, because like you get certain people who work hourly, they'll sit there and not do nothing all day. And who's to say that, they're not? You can't really tell sometimes. So when you're flat rate, it shows if you're a hard worker or not. So, there's a crew of people who know, hey, this guy may not know everything or whatever, but he tries his best and he's learning.
In a way, does that kind of frustrate you to see someone that like is there 8 hours, ends up only making two because they just are lazy? Like they're holding up a position for someone who might want to really learn there, and become a better technician.
Yeah, I mean, if you work in a shop, you kind of know how they get treated. Not saying that we treat them like shit, but we gonna make some jokes and say what we feel about you. We've done that plenty, and I just find it funny because it's always the people like that who, when they always start out saying, they may not have a bunch of tools or nothing either, like even basic tools, but they
Yeah.
start out as a tech and they're like, man, I can do that and yada yada time, and you ain't doing, this right and that right. And I'm not saying don't correct someone when they're not doing something right, but
Yeah.
they just act like they're superior or something. And it's always funny because they're the ones who end up quitting before me.
Now, I wanted to break into something completely different. Obviously, if you're working flat rate, the faster you can get something done, the better, because you're beating that set amount of hours. You're getting more hours for less work. It's a win-win for you. But how do you prioritize like the speed and quality of the work when you're under like that flat rate system?
You know what's funny is I don't care about my speed at all. I just try and do the job and do it right. I'm not gonna say I wasn't always like that, but I think at least recently I've done a lot better about that. I used to be like, man, I gotta get this done. I made mistakes. I made some bad mistakes and they cost me. Maybe not, a lot of time that I needed, but I just felt like a dumbass, man. I was like, this ain't right. I need to change something.
With your personal experience, are like of course, you get a work order for like a vehicle and it takes set amount of hours. That's how much hours it pays. Are the hours that set that it says you should be able to complete it in, are those pretty accurate? Like, is it, or there's particular cases where there's like a job that could definitely be done an hour shorter or an hour longer?
Well, so here's the thing with, at least how I understand that we do it at the shop. I could be wrong, but warranty has a set time. You know that time. You do a recall or something under so many miles and it's covered. You may not even get diag. You might just get pay on changing the part. And it's usually right on par. Like you gotta work your butt off and you're getting just that much. Or sometimes they pay a little more. I've had like door latches. I can usually do half the time they say, but I got a lot of experience with those. And then there's always a bunch of stuff that you just ain't doing in that time.
Speaking on that, I kind of want to know, have you ever faced like a challenge where you have to accurately estimate the repair time on completing a job and like it just all goes like down the drain? Like, like you end up losing
uh,
so many hours because you either didn't know what you were doing or just bit off more
Man,
than you could chew.
I remember the first time I did a F-150 turbo, like on the EcoBoost.
Okay.
And, this is just one, or I might have done both turbos, but I didn't pull the cab. And I didn't know no better. I just did it by the book.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the book's wrong. I did do it, but it was just a lot of headache. And if I just took a little more time and pulled the cab, I could have done a lot. I would have been a lot more sure of my work too, just because I could get to everything and I could see everything. Like feeling for turbo lines on the back of the head, I'm looking with a mirror, man. Like I'm pretty sure of what I'm doing, but I ain't 100%. I didn't have no leaks, but it's just funny because I think that's part of maturing as a mechanic. I guess you look back at what you did. You're like, man, what was I thinking?
Yeah, obviously repetition is the key, especially to like something like that. You get faster the more you do things. Do you kind of find yourself and maybe, others kind of seek, I mean, obviously it would be bread and butter to try to get the same thing that you're used to every time, but like I know kind of the person you are. You like to challenge yourself to do things that you haven't done before, and I'm wondering if you kind of see what you see more commonly with the techs there. Like, are they kind of like you? Are they like seeking out things they haven't done before? Are they like, no, I know how to do this. This is my bread and butter. This is how I'm making my bank.
So
Like
it
you with the door
depends.
latches.
Yeah, like so there's like for instance, I used to be the used car tech, and that's a great spot to be in, I think, because you do really similar things every day, but it also changes because like it's any used car in a lot, so you always do your inspection and shit, and it pays good. So whoever's getting that job is not guaranteed hours, but man, they don't gotta worry a lot. So I like seeing people who need hours in that spot, and you also get maintenance on those cars too. Like one needs a parking brake or axle or wheel bearings. So you get to challenge yourself and diag shit, and usually it's not nothing crazy on them too. So it's a good entry spot. But then there's also guys who do try to do the same thing every day. And not saying it's bad. Like our buddy Jared does a lot of 3.5 phasers and timing components, all that. And he's just really good at it. So of course it goes to him because I think once you specialize in something, you should get more of it. You're a better mechanic in that sense on that area. And that's typically how it's done at our shop.
Yeah, I know you're just like the king of the door latches. It seems like nobody else wants to mess with them except for you at the time. Whenever you first worked out there.
Yeah, I mean other people would do them, but if they didn't want to do them, they'd give them to me, and that happened quite a bit.
Yeah, so is everyone out there is flat rate? Is that correct? Technicians,
Mm,
at least.
yeah, I think so.
So, being on both ends of the spectrum, which would you prefer? If you were at your perfect job, would you rather be flat rate or would you rather be hourly?
So, if you mean perfect job, as in I
Doing
am the
exactly what
only
you want to do.
limiting factor of
Correct.
my, like, there's a constant supply of work, tools, like I can just get at it whenever, as fast as I want. I'd be flat rate just because I know I could turn the hours. If I, like, we've been slow lately, so I ain't getting 40 hours, but I'm still getting like 30, and I have like a day where I like really didn't make hours, so I'm making decent hours. So I know
So
if I had a steady flow of work, I could make 50 hours a week.
it's so weird to think that like you have that downtime, and it's kind of like you know you can't really feel bad. Like for me, for example, I'm hourly, so like I have all kinds of time where it's just like I ain't got nothing to do, but I'm still making money. But if you ain't got
Yeah.
nothing to do, you ain't making money. So you kind of don't have that added guilt of like I'm screwing the company over right now. It's kind of like, do you just like whenever you don't have nothing to do you just you know wander around? Like how does that go?
Some people will go home if they like
Really?
really can't get work. Yeah, but I never really cared. My car's too hard on gas. I'm staying the whole day,
Yeah, you'll find something to
and
do. Organize your toolbox, do
yeah,
something.
there's always something to do. And even if I can't do training or whatever, like today, training was down and I was slow. I went over and just helped Jared with his job and tried to learn something.
Yeah, that's good. It seems like that's kind of a thing with the dealerships is they do allow for a lot of growth. Like they'll let you grow as much as you want to. Like they don't force it on you, but they definitely have that opportunity cuz
They
you of
want you
course
to.
yeah, you of course you started out as a loop tech, like bottom of the totem pole, and I mean,
Yeah.
you've worked your way up.
I mean, I wasn't born mechanically gifted or nothing. I've been, I'm pretty stupid. So anyone can do it.
Yeah, it's kind of it is hard to wrap my mind around it because I have been hourly my whole life, and I doubt I'll ever see a flat rate job just because of the field I'm in. But I definitely know that it would benefit my work environment for sure. There's definitely some people that like it's like you said,
It kind
man.
of weeds out the people who don't really, I think,
This
deserve to even be there.
yeah, I definitely agree because you've got people that you've got three groups of people. You got people with drive who come in, do the extra mile, or just do at least a little bit above the average work. And then you've got your average worker who comes in, does what they're required, and goes home. And then you got the lazy person who does minimal and kind of piggybacks off everybody else. And it's like you said, flat rate really takes care of that because you ain't getting paid if you ain't doing nothing. You're just there taking up
Yeah,
oxygen and space.
like I'm telling you, like there have been some people I may not have liked, and I guess I didn't like them, and they kind of it wasn't bad that I didn't like them, right? Like they did like I can't feel bad about it. I just didn't like him because he's kind of stupid, and he was a lube tech. But I'll tell you, that man was flat rate, and he'd turn 40 hours every day. I'm not gonna say he didn't work. So I think as long as you're willing to work, you can make your place somewhere.
I feel like if you're flat rate too, you're like you feel a lot more deserving of your money. Like you put in that work. It's like I said,
Yeah,
there's a
and
lot of
yeah,
time.
try and screw a flat rate mechanic out of his money. See how
Yeah,
it goes.
there's a lot of times. Like I said, I'm hourly. There's a good bit of my day where I'm just kind of idle. I would say it's like you worked for every hour when you're flat rate, like physically worked. Oh, I would say it's way more rewarding as a flat rate employee.
Yeah, if I had any advice to someone being flat rate, it would be don't get in a rush. Do good work. Don't just, I'm not saying you gotta torque a fucking axle nut or something you hammer on with impact, but just at least torque your gaskets and mating surfaces and, visually make sure you inspect everything. Don't glance over nothing. A lot of shit's obvious.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious. Do you still which whenever you worked hourly, you were very precise. I mean, you torqued literally everything to spec. I'm wondering if you carried that over to your flat rate position. You were torquing
Well,
dang lug nuts to spec.
you know, I used to not be like that when I was first flat rate out. I was just like, I'll send her home, and
Yeah.
I never had a wheel come off or nothing. I made sure that I did good on stuff like that. But I can think of times when I snapped the intake bolt off in my head on my LS3 because I was like, oh, I don't need to torque it, or I didn't even look at the torque spec. I was like, oh yeah, it's about that. It's just like stupid, really. I had 2 seconds to look up a torque spec, and then not too long to do them. I don't know people who don't torque intakes and they work fine. I've done that, but I don't know. I think at a certain point I've changed in that because I torque every wheel I've done since I started. I haven't took any valve covers off really. I don't think, and put it like that. I put on. I just helped other people. I've torqued every thermostat housing I've pulled so far. Torqued every intake. I torque everything.
So how does that work if a vehicle does come back like to the dealership that you worked on? Do you lose those hours or is it just kind of like,
It depends
oh, really?
because there's different types of comebacks. There's the I'm coming back because my car has a separate issue unrelated to what you just did, and I want to get free repairs. And then there's the same thing, but instead of wanting free repairs, like your car has an unrelated issue, but it throws a check engine light, like you don't know any better. So there's also that sometimes too, unrelated stuff that just so happened to happen when you had worked on it not too long ago. And then there's the you genuinely fucked up and you're retarded.
Do you lose money because of that, like hours? Or is it just kinda like you're
Yeah, you
frowned upon?
can.
Okay.
You can. I don't know how often it happens because it never really happens to me. But I had like one car today someone had worked on, not naming names,
Yeah.
and they did a recall, and like the concern was similar. So this is kind of like the one I was saying where the number two I said they did a recall on a brake flush, and they on a computer and tested the hydraulic control unit. And then they just so happened to have a master cylinder that was leaking into the booster, causing a spongy pedal. And nothing related to what they did on the recall, but they was like, yeah, take a look, they worked on it. I think that's what I see the most, stuff like that, where it's kind of like in the same area but not related, and
Yeah.
they might want free money or just they don't know better.
Yeah, I just I that's kind of all I had. I really just wanted to pick your brain on how you felt, and it's very clear. It's very clear that flat rate is definitely the best way to go. I feel like overall, if you're a decent at your job and want to control your money, I feel like flat rate's just the way to go for any occupation. If you're motivated enough, you're gonna make the most
Yeah,
money.
or I would say commission-based stuff on top of hourly is another good way. There
Yeah.
needs to be I think the more incentive there is for workers, the better, not just like, "Ooh, pizza party." Like, give me opportunity to make money because that's what I'm here for to begin with,
Yeah, it's kind of
and I
funny.
will make strides to try and do that.
It's kind of funny, of course, if you've listened to the show before, I work in a factory, so already not the greatest work conditions and HR and all that good stuff. Well, they did decide to do a employee, what did they call it? They had a fancy name for it, but it's like employee group where a person from each department goes up front to meet with all the big wigs, and they have a discussion on what they see that something could be changed to make the workplace better, help with turnover, help just
Yeah.
everything in general. And as soon as I got up there, before anybody could get a word out, they immediately said, "We don't want you guys to say a word about pay. We are not changing that. That is staying the way it is. We don't want to hear about it." Like, okay.
I'd say it anyways.
Yeah. I'm like, well, I'm not going to participate in this anymore because you clearly don't want to hear what's wrong.
Yeah, I will say our dealer is really good about, Larry Davidson said this today, like, "You are someone. You
Yeah.
you are heard."
The it's just like our company, we started out, so like from what I heard, I joined a little bit late, but it was one of the first factories to be paying really well. And just for whatever reason, they just never kept going. They just got left behind in the dust, and that's kind of just what's going on with my place. It's just they're not keeping up with the rates of surrounding facilities, unfortunately.
Probably a mixture of, like, bad management and bad planning, I don't know.
Yeah, but that's all we've got for the cars topic. I will throw it to a quick break, and we will be back with the gaming topic. So it's no question that here recently, I would say maybe starting back in like 2019, I think Among Us was the first game to really change everything. But I want to discuss the new age of indie games because it doesn't feel the same as it did back in like the day of Xbox indie games, Xbox 360 indie games. And I kind of want to get into why they're getting so much more traction, attention than the indie games that we grew up playing as little kids.
I think it's because there's a lot more useful tools for making games, so the quality has definitely gone up. Um, and then I don't know, it seems kind of funny because indie games have always been the kind of out there games, like they're just different. And I don't know, like there were some cool games growing up, but it's like they always kind of copied a little bit of something. It's hard not to because there's always influences in every genre, but it's just funny because, like, some of these games now, I'm just like, where do they come up with this?
I mean, yeah, it's like Among Us, dude. It
Like,
just like came
Deep
out of
Rock
left field.
Galactic, dude.
That too.
Who comes up with that?
Dwarves going to alien planets to mine rocks.
Yeah,
Like
like who, dude? Hats off.
it's it's like Lethal Company too. It's just like that's such a random out there game that went so viral. Like, and that's a whole nother thing. I learned about that game through like TikTok, like
Yeah,
the rise of like influencers and content creators, like platforming these games. I feel like have such a significant role in promoting these indie games.
yeah.
Like,
It's like the AAA games have just stayed in quality or went down slightly, and the indie games are just like catching up.
yeah, and that is a whole nother thing. Like the recognition that these indie games get is like it's so much more respect to get the like for the indie games because you don't, like you said, you don't expect them to be good. You kind of just expect them to be a $15 game. Like if I get 2 or 3 gameplays out of this that I enjoy, I feel like I got my money's worth.
Yeah,
But these indie games getting this like mass praise, I feel like that because if it's a good COD game, it's a good COD game. Like, you're gonna talk about it, it's whatever. But like, you got an indie game coming out of left field, you're like, hey yo, like, what are we
Hey,
doing
yo,
over
Dead
here?
Island. I guess you wouldn't call it an indie game, but still, it's like,
I'm kind of looping in indie games and small studio games. Like, I'm kind of looping
yeah,
them in together here. Uh, I'm kind of wanting to talk about them versus the AAA and like maybe the step below that games because it's I feel like games like Lethal Company, Cuphead, that weird pixel game that we've been playing,
yeah,
BattleBit, Among Us, like all those games are like so much fun. Like compare and they have so much like we could jump on Lethal Company right now and I'd be like fine staying up super late and playing.
yeah.
And it's a 15 or I don't know how much it costs at the time, but it's like a fraction of what these AAA games cost.
I still got Castle Miner Z downloaded, dog. Like,
Me too.
some
Like
games you just can't get rid of.
and it's like you said, the diversity in like the game concepts, like these indie game developers, like they explore the like such unconventional game concepts and themes that like are may not be like feasible for large studios to go after. They might not appeal to the mainstream, and that like diversity attracts players who are seeking like unique experience. And it's like I said, they just like these influencers put it on TikTok. They have clips that go viral, and they're like, "Hey, that game looks fun. Let me look into it." And then there you go. You've got people going to this game, and it's a whole nother thing that if you have servers full of people to play with.
Yeah, especially if active servers are going on. It's really fun. I'm just thinking like the 7 days or something, Like that game blew up
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's still putting out content.
you're exactly right.
What
I
about
would
Ark? How would you consider Ark?
Ark's definitely a big studio.
Yeah,
Wild
Wildcard is a
Cards
big
made some pretty
studio, but
crazy
it's
games.
kind of like its own thing,
It is out there. It is definitely out there, man. And that's how I found it too. It was just like a YouTuber that I watched do quick build Minecraft videos, and it was before I even had PC. And it was before Ark was on PC too. So, man, I watched that guy play that game religiously, and it finally got released on. That's how I knew when it was coming to Xbox. So I was like one of the day one Xbox players because I was watching him play it on Steam, and I'm like, dog, if that ever comes to Xbox, it's Jover. It is so Jover. I came to Xbox and man, I shut it down. And that winter, we had like so many snow days. I played Ark like day in and day out. I don't even know if I slept that much. Like I was so obsessed with Ark whenever it first came out because I'd always watched it, and it was finally my time.
Sounds like me when I got Daisy.
It was my time to shine. I feel like indie games too, like their development risk is like so low because I mean, if it's a crappy indie game, people are just not gonna talk about it.
Yeah.
Like if a AAA game flops, oh my god, shut it down. Like you're gonna hear everything. There's gonna be dang headlines.
I would consider Project Zomboid an indie game, and
It definitely is.
dude, I still watch people to this day play that, and I don't even play it.
Yeah, I mean these indie games they stay relevant for so long. That's what I love about them too. Like that, and their support. Like these old indie games are still getting updated to this day, and they're so well supported. They're not. That's another thing that I wanted to get on. These AAA games are so quick to move on to the next title. They'll have a good game on their hands, but they're too quick to move on to make another $60 a game, a copy that they don't like keep embellishing on what they have now. And that's why you see some of these indie games getting better and better as they progress because they're always adding in new content. Like they have something good and they're building on top of it. That's why games like Castle Miner Z or not Castle Miner, but 7 Days became such a great game because they kept adding on and adding on to an
Yeah.
already great game. The same thing with Zomboid. Zomboid's the same way. You know, they kept adding on to a great game.
A game I think of that's it still gets some updates is Lunch Lady. I just see like, oh, it's got an update.
Yeah, it's crazy. That game was so much fun for what it was, and the fact that we found it, like, day 1 on launch day on accident.
That was the best. I think my favorite of all time though on indie games. I don't know. It's kind of hard, but Gang Beast is probably my favorite.
Gang Beasts is a very fun game. The brawler style games are definitely in right now.
Yeah.
That's such a good fun party game to play with your friends.
I can't tell you how many people I watched play Gang Beasts before I ever touched it.
Yeah, same thing with I'm seeing The Forest is kind of a small studio game
It
creation
was,
too,
yeah.
and it's
I
I mean
remember
that
when it came out, I watched it, and I never even played it, really.
they even made a second one by now, and it's fun. They're still supporting it to this day. Me and my wife are doing another playthrough through it. It's just like so much fun because they're constantly adding new content. It's so much content that it's worth replaying the whole entire story, rebuilding a base, doing all that just to experience maybe another in cutscene or getting to use like the new weapon that they added into the game. It's just it's worth it because of that replayability. They have added on to a already great game.
And then you got games on the complete other side, like Bloons Tower Defense.
Oh, absolutely. That game is so addicting. I wish I could
It's
have gotten into
crazy.
that game whenever you all were into it.
That was back in the day, man.
PUBG even
Yeah,
it was started out as a small studio.
PUBG, I remember, man. I was into that, like, day one.
I played it mobile. It was so much fun. Like it
When it
wasn't
came
sweaty. It
out,
was
I was on
enjoyable.
PC playing it all the time, man.
And of course, I'm very biased because most all the survival games that come out are small studios. I mean, there are a few that are
Yeah,
really large, such as Minecraft. But like a lot of the smaller indie game survival games, they just have such simple concepts that they are just so much fun. And it just like the build, as long as the building's good, I feel like that's the key to a good survival game is having like a
yeah,
decent building system. Because man, I love Ark to death, but man, there's some times where I'm like, "Are you serious? Like,
yeah.
Dino gates don't snap? Like, what's this? Like, Behemoth gates don't snap? Like, I got a gap in the wall that drives me crazy. I can't do nothing about that. What am I going to tear down a gateway that costed me 1,200 wood, stone, and thatch just to get half of it back?
Imagine doing that on regular drop amounts too.
Yeah, no thanks.
What about Wreckfest?
Wreckfest is definitely a small studio, and the fact that Wreckfest is crossplay now is a big bet.
I don't
Like,
think it is. I think it was literally just PC servers are cross play now, not actually console. Because me and Tyler looked into it.
oh man, that sucks. Well, hopefully they get that all sorted out where it's fully crossplay. I'm
It
just
literally
glad they
just
looked into
says
it.
PC multiplayer crossplay on the update screen.
Oh man, I thought I thought I read into it better. That kind of sucks.
Yeah, I know. If they did that, that game would probably have a lot more servers open.
Yeah, I feel like they don't want us Steam players in their lobbies because we've already gotten all the cheated vehicles because of Workshop.
Yeah, I could see that.
Which is, I mean, it's such an like it's an older game. I get it; they still want to support it, but man, let us have our fun.
Man, that game is so much fun though.
I know.
And here lately, Pixel Strike 3D, man, that game has just been fun.
Yeah, I mean, you've been
I
on one
never
about that
played
game.
a phone crossplay game, but I love this one.
Yeah, I'm kind of shocked they beat COD Mobile to it. These indie game dudes, they be going hard.
For no reason, this thing has Clan Wars, Infected, Competitive.
They got more game modes than Modern Warfare 3 out the gate.
Dude, they be putting in that work.
Well, guys, I guess with that being said, I would do an outro, but I think now would be just a good time to go ahead and get it knocked out. I want to tell you guys thank you so much for watching, and I hope we catch you guys in the next one. If you enjoyed the episode and want to keep up with us throughout the week, definitely hop on over to social media, follow us on there so you kind of know what's coming up next week and maybe can participate in some of the episodes, giving us some feedback. So, with that being said, guys, we will catch you in the next one.